10 prisoners, one island, and only one way to escape the hell they find themselves in. Better writing. We watched The Condemned, and this is what we had to say. Jack Conrad is awaiting the death penalty in a corrupt Central American prison. He is purchased by a wealthy television producer and taken to a desolate island where he must fight to the death against 9 other condemned criminals from all corners of the world, with freedom going to the sole survivor. We've got a cracker this week, guys. An absolute cracker. Absolutely brilliant. Andrew, fantastic choice. So, joining me this week, we have Paul Stirrett, Andrew Grayson, Joseph Boone, and we're spoiled this week because we've got not one but 2 guests on the show this week. We have here to talk about his upcoming show, Square. We've got George Harold Millman, and we've also got Alastair Rennie to talk about his upcoming films, The Monitor and Amatuer. So, welcome to the show, guys.
Great to have you. Thanks for having us.
So, as per the show's requirements, you get to promote your stuff at the end of the episode, but first, you've got to join in and talk about the film that is up on offer this week and help us dissect it. And I think it's fair to say you're going to earn your guest spot this week, that's for sure, for this one. So I'm going to throw it straight across to Andrew because, as I said, Andrew, this is your pick this week, so please tell the audience why this film. In fact, I'm going to say that again, Andrew. Why? Why this film, Andrew?
I mean, with Scotland going back into lockdown pretty much, I thought we could watch something a little light and fun and, you know... no, in all seriousness, I forgot how dark this film was, to be fair, but I'm a fan of films like shite good films. So a film that you know this is terrible, but you enjoy watching. And then when I was younger, obviously I grew up, I was a wrestling fan. Any kid that grew up in the 90s surely knows WWF was the place to be. And I would always spend my weekends, I would go to like HMV and they would have like, the bargain bins where it's like you get 3 DVDs for a tenner. And that was one of the ones I picked up. And it's just a film. I don't think it's terrible, but I think there's things within the film that I do like, that I think, right, they had something there, although it was ultimately shite. There was something that kind of grabbed my interest.
Definitely. Now, I think for the rest of the panel, correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be what's called, as we're saying on the show now, a Stirrett special, which is a first time viewing. So I think for the most part, I think everyone else will be that way. So I'll start with the namesake himself, Mr. Paul Stirrett. Paul, first time viewing, need I ask, first time viewing, and what were your first thoughts on the film?
I had seen bits of this film, so it's a bit of a Stirrett special, but not much. I remember enough of this film, funnily enough, to remember the soundtrack. Because I remember Black Betty was in it, and I remember that there was a Nickelback song in it, and I remember Firestarter was in it, and I was actually elated when I heard all 3 of those songs at some point in the film. So, yeah, it's obviously there was something memorable enough about this film for me to remember that, but I've never seen it all the way through, and I was like, here we go. And I kind of enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But yeah, it's basically like Suicide Squad meets Hunger Games, only far more problematic. But I liked it. Overall, I liked it.
Fair enough. Joseph, what do you think?
What a load of shite.
Oh, Joseph, no.
Oh, man, the film for me was a battle of attrition trying to get through it. I'm being a bit harsh here. I loved everything Vinnie Jones did in the film.
Yeah.
The rest of it was just like, what is going? It's like the writer room was just like, do you think this will work? Yeah, this will work. Let's just throw it at the wall, see what sticks. I'm not really going. What a film! This is a perfect film to talk about. Definitely. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew it had something to do with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's my wrestling knowledge tapped out.
Pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended.
We'll come to Alastair first. Alastair, welcome to the show, obviously.
Thank you.
And I just want to say how excited I am to have you. You've got loads of upcoming stuff that's great for you to come on and have a wee chat about. You're a busy boy, which is great to see. Me and Alastair actually have worked on 2 films together, I think, isn't it now? Yeah. He's killed me in both. Yeah, he's killed me in both. So yeah, it's great to see you, man. Great to see you. I can't believe it. It's great to have you. So, tell us, what do you think of The Condemned?
Do you know what? I kind of enjoyed it. Apart from there's lots of things I didn't enjoy about it, but on the main, I enjoyed it. It was like a kind of shittier The Running Man for me. But no, I thought there was good points and there was severely bad points. But I think overall it was decent. Like the time actually flew by when I was watching it. Like I had to pause it for a bit and I was like, oh, we're an hour into this already. Fantastic, that's great. I've only got 45 minutes to go or whatever. That's fine. But yeah, I was watching it and I mentioned to you I was watching it with my girlfriend. She was less impressed with it. But yeah, I'm actually surprised I've not seen this before because I've had a lot of friends who are like wrestling fans and we used to have movie nights when we were younger. And we used to watch really, really shitey films. And I'm surprised we've not watched this before. So I suppose it's kind of reliving my childhood a little bit, or sort of early 20s. I'm a bit old now. So.
George, welcome to the show. Tell us your thoughts. Have you seen the film before? Tell us your thoughts on The
Condemned. I have not seen the film before. I'm not really that much of a viewer of action films, to be honest. So this was a bit of a new experience for me. And like Alastair said, I was watching it with my partner, and I think we both had quite a similar opinion of it, which was quite useful. And I think the thing that struck me the most was that bit at the end when the lady, I think she's a newsreader or something, says, "Are we the condemned, for watching this illegal game?" I questioned whether that actually referred to me watching this film. Honestly, I did actually look it up on Rotten Tomatoes afterwards. I've got it written up here. And it says on Wikipedia that the Rotten Tomatoes consensus is that The Condemned is a morally ambiguous, exceedingly violent, and mostly forgettable action film, and I disliked it intensely on these grounds.
Sounds all welcome. Did you see that line though? See the line about The Condemned at the end? Did anyone else think that in the writers' room they were like, "Yeah, got it, amazing, great job, guys, done for the day. Let's go to lunch." I mean, I was just sitting there, I just burst out laughing at that last line. I really did. Like it was just like profound statement at the end, just like to kind of sum up the whole thing.
It's like every single line in the film was either trailer bait or written by someone who was born in like the 1920s and had no idea what the internet was. I've got 2 perfect lines here. One of them was, "There's 100% awareness across the internet." That's not a phrase anyone would say, even in 2007. I mean, YouTube was like a couple of years old at this point. And there's another one where it's like when they're all in the hangar waiting to be chucked onto the island. It's like someone said, is it the main dude, the main guy who creates the show says, "You don't have to win, but everyone plays the game." That's just waiting for like a Horatio Caine, just sunglasses on, yeah, sort of moment.
I think that there are some actors, not necessarily in this film, but just generally, who can say a bad line so well that it becomes good. And I think that I maybe have a slightly unique perspective on this film, because within the first 5 minutes, I knew that I was going to dislike it so much that I actually got through the film by putting on the subtitles, turning it to mute, and listening to music at the same time. So I had an impression of what these lines were without really following how the actors were saying it, and I thought, oh my gosh, can you imagine someone's reaction if I wrote a script like this?
I think what's showing here is not everyone is that familiar with, because this film is made with WWE films.
Yeah.
And I think what is showing is that not a lot of you are familiar with WWE writing.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Because this is very much par for the course.
Yeah.
We'll write it, throw it to the wall. Does it stick? I don't know. Yeah, some of it does.
But that's WWE Studios started off and they've made like The Condemned, 12 Rounds, The Marine. there's a lot of bargain bin movies, but they've done what they done one, was it last year or the year before? It was Fighting With My Family.
Oh
It was
yeah,
about
yeah,
Racer
yeah.
That was
called
really
Cage.
good film.
It was written and directed by Stephen Merchant. It was really good. Florence Pugh was in it. The Rock produced it. It was a really good film. But this is the beginnings.
Early
of
doors.
the period, and it is very much, we'll use the WWE writers to pen an action movie.
I didn't even know WWE films was a thing until it flashed up onto the screen. And I was like,
They have 453 films.
nice.
Wow.
That's a joke. That was a joke. That's not true.
But it's absurd enough to believe.
Shite.
But I'll be adding them all to my list.
I'm glad they don't have 440 films.
Yeah.
I think of all that money.
Yeah.
Think of all that money.
Yeah. I imagine they still made a decent amount of money from this film, to be honest with you.
Well, I can tell you exactly how much they made. It was
Oh, yeah.
20 million budget, and it made 8 million box office, and it also made £6 from me.
I think the thing for me, when I enjoy a film, and the reason why this film didn't work for me, is that I think the most important thing, actually not just in a film, but in a story, in any sort of story, is character. You know, like if you think about a book, for example, you can have full chapters of it where nothing happens because you're just inside the main character's head. And that works if they're an interesting enough character. But the same doesn't work the other way around. Like if you have lots and lots of action sequences, but you don't care about the people it's happening to, it doesn't really work. And I think I think it was Andrew, said that this was kind of Suicide Squad meets Hunger Games. And I did actually think of Hunger Games when I was doing it, when I was watching it, because I think that's quite an interesting comparison, because with Hunger Games, you know, you've still got the same level of action, the same level of violence, if that's what you're into, and I've got nothing against that. But in that, you actually care about the people that it's happening to. And when I was watching this, I just thought, I'm not warming to any of these characters. Actually, the one point where I did think, okay, this might go somewhere, is about 40 minutes into the movie when you first meet Sarah. Because she was the one I found far and away the most interesting. But then very quickly, her storyline just ended up being part of the main action plot line anyway, which I suppose was inevitable. But I mean, I would have liked to see more of her life at home. Like if that opening scene with her had been the opening scene with the film, I just thought, okay, this looks quite interesting. Mm-hmm. But as it was, I felt like there was something there and they didn't quite take advantage of it in the way that they could have done. Which maybe that goes completely against what the target audience for this film is. But yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. No, you make a good point there. Yeah, definitely about. I felt the same way when I was watching it about the subplots. I didn't feel there was enough attention paid to, for example, the FBI bit and obviously Sarah's bit. And I think if they'd managed to make it a bit more even in terms of the story, that might have made you care a bit more about what was going on and invest a bit more in the actual plot and the Steve Austin character's like plight, you know, all the way through. I think they maybe needed to even up a little bit on what we're doing. But as you say, who is this for? It's for guys and well, probably people who like this sort of film and like wrestling and want to see these wrestlers just have a go at being an actor in an action film. I hadn't seen the film either, so this was a special for me for sure. As soon as I saw the WWE Films logo, I was like, here we go. This is it. This is it. I was ready for it. I mean, I knew going in, I think, what was coming. To an extent, it met my expectations, I think. However, I will say, and I do apologise to Andrew, I didn't like it. I didn't like the film. This is the first of the films that were done for me, which I've not really liked. I thought the main thing for me was that it's been a day, and I've already forgotten it. It's gone. It's gone completely from my brain. If I didn't have notes in front of me, I couldn't tell you what happened. I really couldn't. So that was the major thing for me. It was a bit forgettable, and I think the performances didn't really help that, and the characters didn't really help that, and the writing in particular, as with Joseph was saying, that was the stickler for me. The writing was very, very poor. But hey, my biggest takeaway from the film, I think, was the actor who played the main bad guy, the millionaire. What was his name again? Breckle, who for the whole film, I just kept thinking in every scene, he looks so much like Fred Savage. The whole time, every scene he was in, I was missing bits of the film because I'm just staring at him, just going, this is insane. They're identical. And so I just couldn't. I had to rewind bits because I couldn't focus on anything else. In my notes, he has been referred to as arsehole Fred Savage. So that's if I mentioned that at any point, that's what I'm referring to. Is Breckle. So let's kick things off with the film's premise. All right. So because the film has an interesting premise. This was made a year before The Hunger Games. So, I mean, we can argue that Suzanne Collins watched this film and was like, hey, there's an idea. Let's go off and do that. So, do we think the concept of the film itself has legs? Does it have potential? I'll open this to anybody. Do we think that actually there's a decent film in there somewhere if, for example, we had better actors, better directing, better writing? What do we think?
Yes. I think it's a great concept. I think if you look through, like, I've got so many different, so you've different films like Death Race, Gamer. Recently you had a film called Ready or Not. There was one I would recommend. It was written by James Gunn called The Belko Experiment of this Battle Royale, and then you had the original Japanese Battle Royale. But even now it's moved over to gaming. You've got games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, COD have just made a Battle Royale game. So this idea of you're in this enclosed space and the only way that you're going to survive is by killing everyone else, I think is an intriguing concept. And as Joseph and Craigie have both said, I think the thing that let this down mainly was the writing. I think the idea is solid of what, even just if you take their solitary idea of these are guys on death row, the only way they've got a chance of surviving is to come and play this game. I think that's a clever idea. It's just the execution was quite poor.
I definitely agree with Andrew there. It's definitely a film that has legs, but it's kind of like that last trolley at Tesco's, how instead of having only one duff wheel, it's got 3 duff wheels, and you're fighting the entire time to try and steer the thing. That's kind of what this film was like. Yeah, like Andrew's saying, folk stuck on an island. I mean, you've got the original Castaway, you've got Lost. These shows, these movies hold up, and even though Lost wasn't good in the end, much like this film, people still watch these things. So like the idea is really solid, but I think what this movie did suffer from is I think each actor was in a different film tonally. Because you've got, Steve Austin, he's in like the red-blooded American who's fighting for his people, but he's being unjustly spurned or whatever. He's in that film. Vinnie Jones is in a comedy. Then you've got like the FBI dude. He's brilliant, man. I love him. All my notes are about him. But like you've got the FBI agents who are like in a CSI drama sort of thing. I think if like the idea, the concept is great if they just manage to link everything tonally. And I think that you could definitely do something amazing with like this genre, as we've seen with, just Hunger Games and all that sort of stuff.
I think for me, the most sort of believable, what I liked about it was that I could actually find the story to be believable. Like I could believe there is some millionaire that wants to put on a show. He buys an island, puts a bunch of convicts on it, and I think people would watch that. Like I think that is something. So for me, the whole concept is actually really believable, and that was what sort of drew me into it a bit more. And then I sort of came right out of it again, as yourself said, when are we the condemned? And then I felt, am I actually the condemned for watching this? So yeah, I totally agree. But it's for me, the concept was really believable.
We were one Joe Biden away from this actually being a real thing, I think.
We can laugh now, but maybe
exactly.
The thing about like the whole I'm going to live stream a blood sport. You're right, Paul. Like someone out there would be mad enough to do it, and the thing with morbid curiosity is you're going to watch. I mean, it's a foolproof business model. The legality. The morality about it is the catch up, and the thing that really pulled me out the film was when what's his puss, the main guy doing the show, when his girlfriend turns around and goes, you know what, I'm not so sure about this. I mean, you've been fighting for months and months and months. He's lying in bed one night reading the paper and he's like, honey, I'm going to write a blood sport, and she goes, sure, go for it. That sounds great, thinking it's never going to take off. But it does, and then it's only till they're on the island she thinks, hold on, this is not a good idea.
Well, I mean, that with the person's girlfriend intervening happened in real life with the Stanford prison experiment.
That's true.
The person who shut that down was the partner of the main psychologist who was doing it. And I agree with what everyone else has said, actually, that there was a concept here that could have worked. But then I would also have said that about pretty much any film I've ever seen. I don't think there's any concept that is uniquely just awful. Okay, someone's going to think of one now just to prove me wrong, but you know what I mean. There might be the odd one, but in most cases, I think that something can work if it's executed well. I felt that the problem with this was that they just put in an awful lot of senseless violence at the expense of actually exploring what this concept would mean, the effect it would have on the public, the effect it would have on the people themselves, the effect it would have on the media stations, and so on. They didn't really feel like there was very much of that.
Yeah, I think this thing, this film could be an episode of Black Mirror. If you were to focus on that stuff, on that side of things, you could have this concept and then focus on the public's reaction and the thirst for violence that humanity has in certain situations. You could focus on that, and it could be like an episode of Black Mirror if it's executed in a different way. In terms of like casting and stuff, by the way, apparently Tim Roth was up for Vinnie Jones's part, and so that's a slightly higher caliber of actor. But Tim Roth has played those kind of parts in the past, like Incredible Hulk. He played that kind of like sadistic soldier type character, which is interesting because he's only about 5'4", I think. But he seems to play these parts. So I could see him in that role. I actually genuinely could see him in that role, and then maybe in a different film with a bit more of a high concept and better casting and better actors, then that could be the case. Let's just, because we're kind of talking about performances and we're kind of talking about the character's motivations, as for example, the girlfriend just jumping in and saying, "Hey, actually, no, this isn't a good idea." So my thing with the characters in the film is that the motivation and the actor's choices, whether it's directing, whether it's writing, but I think the actor's choices as well, mainly for me, they don't make any sense. They don't line up throughout the film. Can I tell everyone though this is my favorite moment in the film? Okay, so my favorite moment in the film comes from an actor's choice with what he's doing. So it is arsehole Fred Savage I'm talking about. So at the top of the film, right, a prisoner is killed before they can enter the game. And that's why Jack Conrad, Steve Austin's character, comes into the film. So when that happens, arsehole Fred Savage reacts in the way that you'd expect. He gets angry and he's like, "Oh, find me someone else," and he storms out the room. Fine. Totally agree. Then, cut to the helicopter, and the Italian prisoner's shoved out, falls, dies on the rocks, can't go into the game. It's the same scenario. The computer guy turns to arsehole Fred Savage and says, "The Italian prisoner's died." And arsehole Fred Savage is sitting on the end of the table like, "Oh, come on, guys, be a bit more careful with my stuff, please." You know, it doesn't. I just couldn't stop laughing. I had to pause the film, and I was out for about 5 minutes, just bursting with laughing because it just did not make any sense. Because it's the exact same, literally the exact same motivation. A prisoner's died, can't enter the game. We've wasted a prisoner, and you're having a completely different reaction. It doesn't make any sense. And I think, as I said, that was the main issue with me in terms of the actor performances. They didn't match the whole way through. And you know, like the director guy as well, the guy that played Goldie, he's a decent actor. I think he's Lewis Litt in Suits. The guy who was Goldie, the director. Yeah, he's a decent actor. He's been in a few things. I think this is maybe an early role for him, but like even he was making choices that I thought didn't quite line up with the character. Did anyone else have any feelings about the actors' performances in particular that they want to discuss?
There was two moments that kind of didn't line up with like the whole, you know, focus of the game, the self-preservation stuff, and I don't even know the characters' names, which is the worst bit. It's when the two contestants are in like the broken airplane, and you know the dude's like, "Oh, I can't trust women because the last time I trusted a woman, I was sent to prison," and she's like giving him like the massage, and everyone's like, "Oh, here we go, we're about to get the more not safe for work portion of this live stream," and then she pulls the tab on his anklet, and boom, he blows up. I'm like, that's a really cool, like, neat way to, you know, off someone in this blood sport that you're televising. And then later on, when Stone Cold is like, you know, helping her and they're trying to escape from, you know, Vinnie Jones pretending to be Legolas, she gets shot in the side, and then she goes, "No, that's it for me. I'm going to blow myself up." I'm like, "You've still got a running in this hen. You've still got a chance to get it here."
To be fair, she was in a bunker that was on fire at that point. So if she didn't want to burn to death, I think the explosion ankle was the way to go.
But
I think
hadn't
possibly
just pulled the grate off first, and then she pulled the tab. I mean,
possibly as well, with everything else going on in the film, I think my only way I could justify, because that death kind of confused the hell out of me, my only way of justifying it is she was not 100% sure of Steve Austin's intentions either, is what my thought is, considering what 90% of the men tried to do to her on that island.
Yeah, fair, that's a very fair point.
I was going to say, surely he could have carried her, or like dragged her down, you know?
But again, I think it's a thing where you're in your head, you're going, I get what you're saying. Like, we see it from our perspective. We see, right, Austin's not a bad guy. He's actually not trying to kill. It takes a lot for him to get to the point where he does say the great line, "Game on." That was great. But up until that point, these other guys or girls don't know what his intentions are. Like, you're on an island where you're going, right, everyone here is trying to kill me. So I do get your point where it seems a bit bizarre that she would pull the tab, but at the same point, she's like, she might be thinking, I'm dead anyway. Let's make it quick.
Definitely.
I did love as well that. Sorry, go.
I was going to say, you know what this film would be incredible on? Have any of you come across a YouTube channel called Editing is Everything? So Editing is Everything is this YouTube channel, and there's this woman who makes film trailers out of context. So she'll do Shrek but make it look like 50 Shades of Grey, or Harry Potter but make it look like a really edgy drama, and they'll show Hermione saying, "If Harry and Ron hadn't come and found me, I'd probably be dead," and make it look like they just stopped her committing suicide or something like that. I think it would be amazing to try to turn this into a comedy or into something else.
I think you could make it a really good romance between Stone Cold and Vinnie Jones. I think there's a lot of tension between them.
There's a forbidden romance there for sure.
You must check out that YouTube channel, by the way. It's absolutely incredible.
That sounds great, yeah.
Editing is Everything is called.
Everything other than, yeah. Joseph, I can't believe you sidestepped, Joseph, like one of the best lines in the film, though, when you were talking about the prisoner who got blown up by the female prisoner, which is what I think the best last words ever spoken by a character before they die, which is, "Bitch, got me again, motherfucker, not again."
Not again. I love the context of that. I'm about to get blown up again? What is this, Looney Tunes? However, that is not the best line in the film. It's not the best line. Categorically, the best line in this film was Vinnie picking up the gun and making a Die Hard reference.
Oh, yeah. Right.
No good.
I like, my favourite line was "What were you doing in El Salvador?" "I was working on my tan." "Well, why did you blow up that building?" "It was blocking my sun." That was a great line.
And let's not forget, it's called "Fuck Your Mama," of course. the iconic bit of writing there. Fantastic, honestly. So, I mean, we're talking away about the film's themes and stuff already. Did anyone else pick on? We've talked about the fact that obviously the reality TV scenario, but did anyone else pick on the fact that this was like a very, very not subtle, very overt advert for streaming services and Netflix? Even though it was made a little bit before those became a thing, I've written 5 times, "This is an advert for Netflix. This is an advert for a streaming service," because they kept banging on the fact about the networks have all the power and they've got all the money. We're going to bring it back to the people and put it on the internet and all these things. So yeah. Did anyone else kind of pick up any more kind of themes in the film that the film was trying to do?
I mean, it's not a very good advert for them, is it? It makes them look terrifying.
I mean, it was about ratings in the end. Yeah. It was all about the ratings and I want to beat the Super Bowl and stuff like that. So I suppose it's trying to get, all the audience online and away from mainstream sort of media and stuff. So yeah, definitely.
You could definitely feel the hand of Vince McMahon in this, because he's like going, "Oh no, we need to beat the Super Bowl, like 40 million, ratings. Yeah. We need ratings. It's all about the ratings, man." That is Vince McMahon down to a T. So I thought that was really. I could feel his blueprints all over it.
I thought there was going to be like a theme of the whole almost like anti-military, with how both Vinnie Jones and Stone Cold had been spurned by their military sort of like organization sort of thing, how they were just leaving him to die on this island despite the fact he'd done so much as like a black ops unit, that sort of thing, and then Vinnie Jones was SAS and he's been like left to die on this island. I thought that was going to go somewhere and be like almost like this anti-establishment sort of message thing, but nope.
I don't think that would be a thing to happen, because like Vince and the WWE are very pro-military. They do things for, like, they go out and do shows just for the troops and for the military and stuff like that. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think that would ever be an option for like WWE.
That's why it confused me, because like I've heard about them like doing these just military shows, and I thought this is a really weird direction if that's the case. But then when, of course, Vinny's telling his sad backstory, Stone Cold just like puts him in the ground, like, no, clearly, no, it's not there. Clearly.
That's another great line. Oh, you sound like you've had a hard life. Yeah, good thing it's over. That's a fucking great line.
Classic action film lines, yeah, all over the place. Definitely. I mean, yeah. We've got to talk a little bit more about the writing, though, please. I mean, we've already kind of talked about our kind of favourite lines, but honestly, the writing in this was absolutely unbelievable. Tell you what, let's take a moment. Let's take a break. So I think we need to go and have another go at this, because there's a lot to talk about in terms of this. I think we need to talk more about Vinnie Jones as well. So that's it for part one. We'll join us for part two. We'll play some games, some great games from Andrew and Paul, and we'll talk more about the film. See you soon.
Hi folks, I'm Martin McGrath, and I'm standing in the general election in your constituency for this new party I've formed, the Left Centre Right Party. Put your faith in me and I'll help restore your faith in politics. And that's the goddamn truth, right there. Should we talk policies a little bit next time, or...?
God, no. Nobody gives a shit about that. Just smile and agree with everything they say.
I don't have any anyway.
Shall we?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Right? Should we walk or skip?
You can have a little skip if you feel
Are
like
you
it.
feeling happy?
I am. I feel very happy.
Welcome back to part two, where we are talking about the 2010. Oh, sorry, do that again. What's my first outtake? That's my first outtake. Four episodes, man. 4 episodes is taken.
I'm not going to lie, mate. I was pretty turned on by the seductive look that Paul was giving the camera there.
Me too. I was completely distracted.
Luckily, Paul's not on my screen, so I couldn't see it. Right. Here we go. Right.
Again. By design.
There we go. Welcome back to part two. So, let's talk more about The Condemned. Here we go. Writing. Now, we have already said that this is our biggest gripe with the film, I would say. Certainly for me, certainly Joseph has agreed as well. I think most of us agree with that too. So, what is it really about the writing that people think has made this film fall down a little bit? And is there any way, like before, like what we're saying, is there any way that we could maybe change it to make it into a better film? Is there any writer in particular you think might be a good person to come in and do this film again? What do you think?
Me, I think it was just lazy, if I'm being honest. Like, my biggest critic, like, I think in the end, I disliked the people I was supposed to dislike. I didn't mind the people that I was supposed to like. But I think for the main part, like, you brought up the girlfriend helped organise it. She was writing backgrounds that were fake for some of the like for Austin. But then when she actually got to the island and seen it with her own eyes, she's like, oh, I don't like this. And I'm going, that's a bit, like, give us a bit of that before she gets to the island. And I think as well with Vinnie Jones, ultimately I liked Vinnie Jones' character. Well, I didn't like his character, but I thought they'd done his character well. I didn't like the guy. I was like, he's awful. I'm going to enjoy when he gets his comeuppance. But there was like lazy racial slurs just for the sake of, I think, to be racist. There was things that to me I'm going, right, there's no real meat to what you're doing there, but it is making me have the emotions I'm supposed to have. So technically it worked, but for the most part I just thought there was points I was looking at it going, you've wrote it that way just so I don't like him, rather than it being a meaningful character point, if that makes sense.
Andrew, what would you say are the emotions that you're supposed to have?
So, obviously, when we get the start with Austin being in this prison. So they're all murderers. They're all supposed to. They all get this background of killing people and stuff like that. So you're not supposed to like these people. However, you get the couple with Manu Bennett, the Hispanic couple. You're supposed to feel kind of sorry for them, but at the same time, at the back of your head, you're like, these are murderers. And then you're getting when you get the slow stories of the FBI coming in, and you're realising that Austin was this good guy, and he's just in a bad situation, but then he's being forced to do this kind of thing. I don't know. I just thought it was lazy writing in the sense of they're all bad people, but this is the only good guy.
Well, I think that sort of, to me, with what you were saying about it was effective in the sense that it gave you the feelings about these characters that you were meant to have. I think for me that epitomizes why it wasn't written well, because I cannot stand writing that tries to force the viewer to have a certain opinion.
Yeah.
And if characters are developed well and are quite interesting, then some people will like them and some people won't, or whatever. I mean, you know, I've written a murderer who's in prison. That's part of the film that I'm working on at the moment. And he's a very manipulative, very controlling, very disturbing sort of character, but I don't think he's necessarily written to be dislikable. In fact, quite the opposite. A lot of the time, he's written to be quite likable, because during this film, this character comes into jail. Immediately, there's this guy that starts looking out for him, and you think, all right, he's made a friend, because the person's quite vulnerable, and then you realise that the one who is looking out for him is highly manipulative and incredibly ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buck the trend a bit here and say that I thought Vinnie Jones's role should have been entirely mute, because I didn't like him at all. And it made me cringe so hard the entire way through the film that by the end I was like, I knew when I saw him, right? And like I'd not read into it, but I was like, it's going to be him. It's going to be him and Stone Cold at the very end. I knew it, and I was like, I really hope he just gets shot at some point or something like that. I just couldn't stand him in this at all.
Speaking of Vinnie Jones, Joseph, you said that you have a lot of notes on Vinnie Jones. Care to elaborate on that, please?
I just think it was... He's a British guy in an American film, so he's going to be the bad guy to start off with. Obviously, he's not the overarching bad guy, but I just think if you want a villain that is just needlessly violent, who does things for the sake of doing them, for show, for pomp, for grandeur, he's like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, where he's like, you know, he's shaking the clawed gauntlet, he's spurning Inspector Gadget, but he never gets, you know, to win. And I think he's really good, and that's kind of what, from my very limited understanding of WWE, is that what villains are like, Andrew? They're like, they're showy, they're showboaty, and then they get their comeuppance. And I think in that case, he's written really well as part of the WWE expanded universe. But I think all the writing chops went into giving him the best lines that just like use his character well and just make you want to hate him and want him to die. So in that case, it's written really well. But I completely agree with everyone else saying it's lazy writing. We could have had a lot more substance.
I think the thing as well that hit me about when we're saying it's lazy writing is, see, when you get to the end and you realise that he's obviously not been bribed, but he's been put in there as a plant, put on a good show, make people want to watch this, play on that. As George was saying, these people you're maybe not supposed to like. But if you know going into this, maybe not that he's the plant, but if you've got this idea that he's being forced to do this, you'll maybe have more of a empathy towards him, or like, because at the end you kind of see him trying to do somewhat of a turn where he's like, oh, I've been to war and then I've been thrown in jail and the SAS didn't care about me after this and stuff like that, and I'm going, it's a bit too little too late, and you don't get that depth with that character.
Yeah, it's another instance where it doesn't match up, and that's another thing where the writing, similar with the characters and the acting performances, they don't line up. For example, you could make, if you were writing this again, you could make Vinnie Jones's character a bit more substance to him, and make him into someone who has this kind of troubled past. Maybe he's got himself into bother and he's being forced to play the bad guy. much like, for example, if I may say myself, in The Suited Man in Hideous, a short film I did, I had to play a character who was playing, I was an actor sent into a shop to try and convince the other character to shoot me by saying that I'd killed her husband. So it's about, you could add in like a little layer to it like that. So I'm not actually a bad person, but you go from hating me, and for example, you could go from hating Vinnie Jones's character to then thinking, oh shit, actually he's being forced to do this. Oh, he's the real bad guy. Breckle, arsehole Fred Savage, he's the real bad guy. But again, I'm going to keep saying it. But again, like that's a missed opportunity, I think, for sure. Because Breckle is the main bad guy, we know that. But it's very apparent from the start. And I feel that's something that could have been revealed maybe later on, or drip fed in, or something like that. A little bit better.
You could easily done that with like just having him wear like an earpiece or something, or have like there's like a feed between him and the real bad guy, so we know he's being used as a pawn. Like that would have been really good. And then maybe there could be a turning point where he takes it out and goes, no, I'm not going to be your pawn anymore. There's comeuppance, that sort of thing. Because maybe Vinnie Jones didn't need the anklet. Maybe there's something else, some more leverage that the bad guy could have in him to make him a more substantial villain.
Yeah,
I genuinely thought partway through that a combination of some of these characters were going to be like, no, we're not taking this shit. Let's go and find out who's running this and stop them. But it only sort of happened half-heartedly with Vinnie Jones at the end, where he just massacres everyone. A bit kind of, like a rousing moment where, these guys get together and like, listen, no, why should we need to kill each other? Let's just go and kill them, and then we can just escape the island. I think.
For me, one of the biggest gripes with the writing, and it was more for plot, was in that, Joseph, you said one of your favourite quotes is, we have 100% internet awareness. So right away I'm thinking, right, so the police know where you are.
Yeah.
So the authorities know exactly where you are, because if everyone knows, the police knew where you were yesterday. So I'm like, surely you're paying someone off, but there wasn't even like a mention of that at all.
That would have made it far more interesting, wouldn't it? If it had come out that all the authorities know where these people are and don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
FBI subplot, missed opportunity. You could have had maybe the head FBI guy knew about it all from the start. Missed opportunity for all these little things, yeah.
I kind of got that from the FBI guy that came in, who, like the kind of suited guy, and I thought, I kind of got an inkling like, oh, he knows what's going on, and that's why he's not really bothered to do anything about it. He's maybe got a hand in it or something like that. I kind of got that vibe from that.
Well, I suppose that's what the Hunger Games gets right, isn't it? Because this is the thing about this story, is that the game is illegal. It would be better if it wasn't illegal. It would be better if it was completely legit.
That was what you were saying earlier, Craig. You brought up Black Mirror. There is an episode somewhat similar to this when it was the girl that, what was it? She killed someone, and she lived in like this reality show where no one was speaking to her, and then it's like a game show.
Bear.
Yeah.
White Bear, yeah, exactly.
There's an episode of Doctor Who like that as well. It's back when Christopher Eccleston was still the Doctor, where in the far future, it's a rather odd episode because the first 2/3 of it are just kind of pastiches of TV game shows that we all know. But yeah,
is that the one with the robot Anne Robinson?
Robot Anne Robinson, yeah. Like in the far future, the TARDIS crew end up scattered between different game shows, and it turns out that they're all lethal.
I think George is onto something there. I would love to see Stone Cold Steve Austin go up against a robot Anne Robinson.
Anne Robinson.
Against Anne Robinson, that's a real thing. The WWE people went on Weakest
Link. So they did, yeah.
I swear to God, I'll send you the link.
That's amazing.
Also, that Doctor Who episode came out before The Condemned.
So
all links together.
Always copy Doctor Who. Right, let's play our first game, shall we? Andrew, it's you for shoot or kayfabe.
That's it. So kayfabe and shoot. Kayfabe and shoot are two terms in the wrestling business. So kayfabe is a story. So if something's in kayfabe, it's fake, it's not real, they've written it. If something is shoot, it's real life. People, so real life names, real things. So what we're going to do in this game is I'm going to give you 6 monikers that Stone Cold Steve Austin was given or suggested for his nickname. So he had many nicknames: Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas Rattlesnake, things like that. So I'm going to give you 6 names, and you need to tell me whether they're kayfabe, made up, or shoot, they were real suggestions. Okay? So the first name is the Texas Wrangler. Now, do you want me to give you all 6 together, or do you want one at a time and you can decide?
One at a time.
One at a time.
Okay, are you going to tell us how many of each there are? Are there equal numbers of both?
6 names in total. 3 are fake, 3 are real.
Okay. Are we competing against each other or doing it as a team?
I can keep score if you want to compete.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's all go individual. Right, okay, here we go.
I'm gonna go last.
We could actually do it like on a chat thing, couldn't we?
I think that's real. I think Texas Rangers real.
Yeah, I'm gonna go shoot as well.
Shoot.
Also,
Yeah, shoot.
I'm gonna say kayfabe.
I think it was Kate. Okie doke. So the next one is Ice Dagger.
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe. I think it's too similar to his actual name. I'm going to say kayfabe too.
Shoot.
I'm going to shoot it.
I'm going to shoot that one as well.
We've got 3 shoots and 2 kayfabes.
Right,
on
okay.
Ice Dagger. So your third name, Mr. Freeze.
Shoot.
That's a kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Same reason. I'm going to go kayfabe, I think.
Right, so we've got 4 kayfabe and 1 shoot. The next one, Fang McFrost.
No way.
Shoot, please.
Shoot.
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Alastair, what was yours, sorry?
Sorry, kayfabe.
Kayfabe. The Iceman.
I think it's someone else. Kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Yeah, it's a kayfabe, I think.
Yeah, kayfabe.
I'll say kayfabe.
Oh.
And last, Otto Van Ruthless.
Oh, shoot.
Shoot.
We must also already have answered this one because it's just whatever we. If there's
Yeah.
These have all answered different though.
Yeah.
Right, so here we go. I'll give you the answers then, right? So the first one was the Texas Wrangler. Is kayfabe. That was made up. The second kayfabe was the Iceman. The Iceman was actually another wrestler that he was inspired by, so he can. So that one we made up as well. Mr. Freeze is kayfabe. It's a Batman villain. So that means Fang McFrost was a true suggestion of Stone Cold Steve Austin's name when he was in the WWF. Ice Dagger was a true suggestion when he was in WWF, and Otto Van Ruthless was also a federation of Stone Cold Steve Austin's name when he was in WWF.
Making his way.
I think I got 4. I think I got 4. I'm not sure though. What everyone else get?
Alistair?
I think I got 6.
I think Paul got all of them right.
Yeah.
Making his way down to the ring, Otto Van Ruthless.
Do you know how he actually got his name Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Tell us.
So it's a really badass story. So he was getting these suggestions, Fang McFrost, Ice Dagger, Otto Van Ruthless, and he was like, no, I want something like cerebral and really cold and blah, blah, blah. And he was drinking a cup of tea, and his wife at the time says, you better drink that now before it's stone cold. So then he called himself Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No, surely not.
One of the hardest guys in WWF get named after a cold cup of tea.
I think
Wasn't
you can
even
make almost
beer.
any phrase work in that context. Like in a book I read about devising game shows, the author gave the examples. If you look in a dictionary and pick any phrase in the English language, you can make it the title of a game show. And he does that during the book. He's just to make a point, I'm going to do this, and he chooses the phrase "sitting pretty," and he's thinking, that could be a sort of modelling beauty pageant thing. It could be a quiz where whoever's in the lead has some sort of advantage over the others besides just being in the lead. Like, any phrase can be turned into a game show concept.
Well, that's it. Look at the most famous wrestler, or probably one of the most well-known wrestlers, is named after a stone.
They're both named after stones.
Yeah, you've got Stone Cold and then The Rock.
Did you know that giant
I'm just sitting
haystacks
picturing Stone Cold Steve Austin sitting there with like a tiny china cup of tea, like in his huge arm, just like that.
Did you know that giant haystacks once took a course of acupuncture?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a bit of a pain for the clinic though, because they couldn't find any of the needles afterwards.
Oh, boo.
Oh, I love that.
Sorry, I
Jack.
couldn't
That was
resist.
brilliant.
Love it. Right, shall we? Next game, it's over to Paul for Tag Me In, Steve.
Tag Me In, Steve. This is the game where I give you a Stone Cold Steve Austin film, and I'll give you 3 options, A, B, or C, and you have to guess which one of them is the real tagline for the film.
Like it.
Shall we start? First film is called Chain of Command. Now, was the tagline for this film, he broke the chain, now he's breaking necks? Or was it, when duty calls, plans change? Or was it C, they each have a score to settle?
Oh, Paul. Either way, that's some good taglines, mate. Well done. I'm going A. I'm going A for this one.
I think he as well.
Breaking chains, and then he's breaking necks.
I think it's C. Final answer, Chris.
C. Okay.
I would say it was C. I'd prefer it to be one of the first 2, but I think C is the most likely.
I'm going to just go B because no one else has said B.
That is a great strategy, because that is the correct answer. When duty calls,
wow.
plans change.
Well done, Alistair.
Did you make up the other ones, or are they from other films?
I did make up the other ones.
You should do this for a living.
Mate, that first one got me, but because he broke his neck, I'm sitting there. That makes sense.
There you go. See, I'm gonna be tricky with these. The next film is called The Package. Is it A, Vengeance Delivered? Is it B, this was one package they couldn't handle? Or was it C, they each have a score to settle?
I'm going to go A.
I'm going A as well.
A.
I'm going to say B, just because it's so funny. I want it to be that.
I'm going to go C because it sounds least related to the title.
Joseph going for C twice.
I'm going to go C also.
Oh, there we go. Well, I can say that the package is Vengeance Delivered. I wanted it to be B as well, though.
So did that.
Now, the third film is called Recoil, which all I'll give you about this film is it's Steve Austin versus Danny Trejo.
Oh.
So that is the concept of the whole film. So is it mano e mano, blamo e blamo?
Done. It's A.
A standoff where no one's left standing? Or they each have a score to settle?
I'm going to say C.
Every episode doing this, because I'm going C because it's been there every time.
Yeah, I'm going C. I'm going C this time. Yeah.
I'm going C again.
C, 3 times the C.
It'll work one time.
Yeah.
I can confirm that it's C. They each have a score to settle.
Paul, I love you, man. That was awesome.
That was brilliant.
That was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's definitely. By the way, that's good to see because now I've seen that season 1. That's going to be a segment, Paul. That's yours. That's yours, man. I love it.
Can you tell us? Can you tell us the third film A again?
A for mano e mano, blamo e blamo.
Does that mean anything?
I basically took mano e mano, like one-on-one, and then just added blamo e blamo.
Funny, now you explained
Why are
it.
you not achieving quiz writing?
I'm picturing, Paul, you're sitting in like a dark room over like a desk that's lit by one candle, and you go, "I've got it, mano, blamo."
That's how Shakespeare done it, So.
Modern Shakespeare.
Oh,
Who won?
awesome. Right, before I read out the reviews, because I have 2 cracking reviews for this film. Has anyone got anything they wanted to add or finish up off by saying?
I want to know who won that last game.
I got 2.
Oh,
When?
I think
Big, you got 2.
I got 1. Yeah.
Oh, you
Joseph got 1, yeah, because he was C all the time.
No, did I get 2?
Yeah,
I think you got 2, yeah.
I think
True,
in that
true,
game, Paul won.
True, 1.
You won that game.
Paul won that game.
Paul's a real winner. Right, anything to add about The Condemned before I read out the reviews?
I was just wondering when George is going to watch The Condemned again because he seemed to love it.
I think if I ever became a teacher, I'd make the students watch it in detention.
Alastair, you're itching to say something, to go for it.
Was it just me, or was everyone really disappointed when he didn't Stone Cold Stunner someone?
Yeah.
Yes, actually.
I
was wanting that.
The entire film, and it didn't happen. And I'm so
The sad thing is there was 2 wrestlers in it. There was another guy, see the big guy, where he's like, if you stay down, there won't be a problem, and then he stands up, he's like, oh, we've got a big fucking problem. He was a wrestler called Nathan Jones, so I wanted him to get stunned as well.
I was so expecting those two to be like, that's when the ex-girlfriend, whatever, she sees him getting blown up, because they're both 2 big bald guys.
Aye.
So if you see a big bald guy getting blown up, you're going to think, oh no, that's my man. He just been blown up. I just think that's going to be a nice little bit of dramatic tension.
Actually, I've got a question, just to kind of go against the norm. How would the film be if the genders were switched and it was a load of women prisoners doing this?
Probably a better film, to be honest with you. Probably better acted, I'd imagine.
So it's the majority women, but there's like 1 or 2 men.
Yeah.
There would definitely be certain themes in this film that wouldn't be there.
Yes.
Looking at you, Vinnie Jones.
I think Alistair's thing would come more true if it was more women. I think you would see the women turn against the people that are forcing them to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see them fighting among each other. I could see them maybe being more thoughtful and civilized to go and why should we?
And do you think those things are things that would happen in real life if people were in that situation? Like the men would fight amongst each other and the women would fight against their oppressors, or is that just the way that they're presented on screen?
What just going off what you just said there, would that happen in real life? Watch Belko Experiment, because it touches upon that kind of thing where it does seem more. Have you heard of the Belko Experiment? No.
Yeah. No, I haven't.
It's like a big office out in the middle of nowhere that these people, it's desk jobs, and essentially you have to kill 3 people in the office, and then the rest can all leave, and they don't, like, that's it. That's the concept, and you get this idea what you were saying there, George. Like, would that happen in real life? Like, what people's thought processes would be? Yeah.
Did any of you hear? It happened several decades ago, so I'm not quite sure why it was suddenly talked about this year. But there was a huge thing earlier this year about a real life Lord of the Flies situation. I think it's because a particular journalist started to talk about it or something. But apparently several decades ago, there was a group of boys who disappeared for a couple of years, and then they were found living on this island, and they'd actually managed to cope together quite harmoniously, which was obviously substantially different to how it did in the famous novel.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Was it boys from Australia, Tonga, something like that?
It was something like that. Yeah, I suppose that's something that I find quite intriguing in terms of the way that we deal with fiction is that I feel that I understand why, but we always seem to be dealing with the worst of humanity. And like, you never see a film where they actually all come together and make something beautiful, do you? And I suppose a lot of people would say that wouldn't be a very interesting film, but I would think it would be. I would think it'd be quite an optimistic and quite an exciting film.
Yeah, it'd be different as well. It'd be different.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly that.
You wouldn't see the end coming at all, would you? Because you'd think it would just be another one of those films.
Yeah, definitely. Right, are we ready? Because these are amazing. Okay, so 2 reviews for you. Now, on IMDb, this film is rated 6 stars out of 10 overall. Both of these reviews are 10 out of 10. Okay.
One of them 9.
Review 1. I'm not a real fan of The Rock, but this film is just well worth watching. CGI just so good. I love it.
Were they talking about Mummy 3?
I think he's got him confused. It's a shame. So, review 2, when it gets good. Now, review 2 is 3 paragraphs long. And I'm going to read the whole thing because it's worth it. Every time I raise my voice, it's because the word is in all capitals. Just so you know. This is a great all-round movie. Anyone who says otherwise is nothing but an idiot who has not seen it yet. You get all kinds of idiots all the time who say such and such movie sucks because it has a wrestler in it. But you take WWE, Stone Cold, Nathan Jones and Vince McMahon all out of this movie and it is still one hell of a movie. I really hate these critics who refuse to even review certain movies, such as any and all of the Friday the 13th series. I do not care if it's a rated R horror movie. If you're going to tell me that what movie 2 and not C, you better have seen all the movies that I have seen, or shut up. So, anyone who says a negative thing about this movie, just ignore. There is no way they actually saw it. Now to the actual movie. First thing, right off, that makes it so great, unlike 99.9% of all movies nowadays, it is not overdone with special effects. Yes, there are plenty of them, but not so many that it makes the whole movie seem fake. Maybe that is why anyone would say, it sucks. They only want fake animated special effect junk. Stone Cold is awesome in this movie. Nathan Jones is huge. The location of filming was well scouted. I give it a 19, not a 10. Once again, that is Big Brother for you, telling you to pick 1 through 10. Who said 10 is the highest score? Obviously, a preschool dropout that has no clue how to count to 11.
What a smelly mark, man.
That barely said anything at all about the actual film. It just isn't like all they were doing was arguing against the other person who wasn't even there.
I like that one of his positives for the film was Nathan Jones is huge. Just like, aye, there's a big guy in it.
So I'm just trying to in that film, what I would actually take about the film from reading that review is like, okay, so Nathan Jones is huge, and they have special effects, but not as many as other films. What else about the actual film does it say?
Yeah.
All it needs to.
That was a great review. I really liked it. So thank you for that one. Thanks for submitting that to the show, Andrew. Thanks. That's great.
Oh man, a 19 out of 10.
That was my favourite bit. That was my favourite bit. It was the talking about Big Brother, and I'm going 19.
And then questions the concept of rating things 1 out of 10.
Amazing.
Just a warning as well, Craig. If you're making us choose more films, this did get a sequel.
Yes, I did see that. Is it Randy Orton? Condemned 2? Yeah. Oh, I actually watched the trailer for it, and I was like, oh no. That's
apparently it's like so much worse. I think that's like a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas the sequel gets like a 4. It's like,
but the main question is, what did that reviewer think of the Condemned 2?
Yeah,
was it a 19 out of 10?
Yeah, I'll see if we can find the same person for sure. Right, I'm going to call it for part 2. I'll see you for part 3 when we talk to George and Alastair about their upcoming projects. See you soon.
My name is Justin Adams, and I'm an art student at university. I'm also an activist with my best friend Trixie. We're both going through some shit at the moment. I just hide it better than she does. She puts me in my place, and honestly, I don't know what I'd do without her. My girlfriend Chelsea has cheated on me, my other best friend Colin fancies me, and I'm having an affair with my lecturer, called Simon. I mean, you've got to live a little, right? I moved to Bristol to escape and start life fresh, and there is so much that has already happened. So join me and my friends, and let's see how the story unfolds.
Welcome back to part 3, where we're about to talk all about Square, The Monitor, and Amateur. So, George, you're up first. Let's talk about
Hello.
Square. Tell us all about Square, what it's about.
Square. Okay, so that's the name of my TV show that I created with my boyfriend, which he wasn't my boyfriend when we started, which just goes to show how much of a big part this has been in our lives. But essentially, it's about life. It's a TV drama series that we're crowdfunding the pilot episode for, and it's about life and politics in the 21st century, particularly with a little bit of focus on a group of left-wing activists in the centre of Bristol. We've been working on it for a couple of years. We've got most of the series planned out, and we're planning on shooting a pilot episode next year, screening it at Watershed, which, if anyone doesn't know, Bristol is this massive arts and film hub. It's a cinema, it's a cafe, it's a media place in the centre of Bristol, right by the docks. We're going to screen it there, invite some important people, put the pilot episode out for everyone to see, and hopefully, fingers crossed, get a series commissioned out of it.
Sounds great. So you mentioned that you and your boyfriend came together to write this, Owen. So how did you meet and come together and eventually end up writing this? Where did the idea itself come from?
Okay, so I met Owen in 2017 when he just moved here, and he cast me in a short film because I was an actor before I was a writer. I still act, but I seem to have fallen more into the writing box now. But yeah, so he cast me in a short film, and we became quite friendly. And then he'd come up with this idea for this contemporary drama series. And then I read this opening script, which was very different to how it is now, actually. But when I read it, I thought, there's really something special here. I want to work on this. And we've taken it further and further and further. And I think the thing that he credits me most for is making it really political. And I always say, no, I didn't make it political. It was political already. I just made us realise how we could be quite overt with that. Because I suppose in some ways it's like what we were saying about The Condemned, which is that there was so much more to it that could have been explored if we'd shown sort of how this affects politics, how this might even be legal, what the world is in this dystopian world. Because there is no concept that is not political. But I just thought, when do you ever see this stuff explored overtly on screen? So there is a lot of activism stuff, a lot of clashes between activists and the police, but also all the characters have their own storylines and their own plot lines alongside that. I think that everyone in it is likable to an extent, and they're also all probably quite flawed.
Exactly. And is that what you're trying to go for, to create these kind of characters that people engage with and can relate to? Is that kind of the idea behind the show?
It is, yeah. We really wanted to tell the stories that aren't told elsewhere. And an example of that is, you'll all have heard this, because everyone has heard this, that there are a lot of calls for there to be more strong women on television and in films, which is something I agree with and something we all should agree with. However, there is a bit of a problem there, because it's not normally accompanied by any specification of which women are going to be on these shows. And when we think of a strong woman on TV, we probably think kind of definitely white, probably mid-40s, probably fairly prominent in her career. And if she's got any problems at all, it's probably that she can't quite fit her personal life around her career. the strong woman is never a 21-year-old black girl who's a single mother to a 6-year-old and every weekend is out there with a megaphone fighting for a better world, which is what we've got with our main female character in Square.
Awesome.
Another one is we've got a character in it, Ollie, who is a wheelchair user. His actor is also a wheelchair user, and although we were specifically looking for a wheelchair user, that wasn't the reason why he got the part. And when I was talking to him about it, he said it was really refreshing to play a character where their disability isn't the whole point of them, because it's not really drawn attention to. He's just a character. And I almost wish that we didn't have to write characters who have disabilities, because I think if we just wrote characters and we had an actor apply and the actor was really good, we could just make that part work with their character. Another one is that, you know, our lead actor, who's this wonderful and diverse actor called Jacob Daniels, we've got a mixed race main actor. We didn't necessarily imagine the character to be mixed race. He just happened to come by and do a really, really good audition. And that's important to me because I don't think we should need tokenism. I think if we are about equal opportunities, everyone should have a good chance of getting something if they're good enough. So I'm really glad that we've got a mixed race lead actor without specifically looking for one.
Totally. This has been a main theme, especially this year. I feel it's kind of cropped up, this whole idea of representation matters and all these things. We have to make sure that we show off our society in all its forms, and that sounds like exactly what you're trying to do with your shows. It's fantastic.
I think a lot of it is a class thing. You don't really see, even now, you don't really see very many working class people represented on television in positive ways.
Definitely.
And not all the characters in Square are working class. It's, as you said, it's a snapshot of society. There are no politicians in it. Like, the most establishment-based people in it are the police officer characters. But it essentially deals with everything that's going on in the world today through the lens of the people who are living with it and who are experiencing it, because you cannot escape from what's going on in politics. There are so many people who, when you bring up a political subject, will say, oh, I don't do politics. And I always say, there's two types of people in the world. There's people who do politics and people on whom politics is done. And I think that's an important thing. And it's also what I was saying a few minutes ago about how we always write stories that show the worst of humanity, but no one ever writes a story about hope, about what if we actually do all come together and we don't fight amongst ourselves and we actually do succeed in creating a better world. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily a utopian story that Owen and I have written. Like, all of the characters are quite flawed. Our main character, Justin, has very similar political views to me, but he's also, I think, a very difficult character to warm to. I wouldn't get on with him at all. But they feel real. And all the characters feel like someone that the viewer will know. Whoever the viewer is, they will know someone who is explored in this program.
And so you're currently crowdfunding for the pilot episode for this show, which is why you've appeared on the show to kind of talk about it. Yeah. So why should people support this show and how can they?
Okay, well, I'll start with the second one, if I may. The crowdfund is on Indiegogo. It's only on until Monday, which is what's the date on Monday? It's the 19th of day when we're recording it. So
23rd.
So yeah, by the time this goes out, you'll only have a short window of time to do it, but that's fine. Crack on with it. And as for why people should support it, I think this pandemic has shown everyone how important the arts are to people. You know, if there isn't good stuff on TV, then it's very difficult, if you're in maybe quite a lonely place, to feel like you're doing something worthwhile with your time. In Square, I think we've got a really original concept and a concept for right now. And a few weeks ago, and it's still going on now to an extent, there was all this stuff going around social media, like hashtag support the arts. And we put that next to our name on the Twitter account. And so there's all this stuff going around about supporting the arts. Everyone agrees that the arts is amazing and we have to support it. But it's not normally accompanied by anything specific that someone can do to support the arts. We've got something specific. We're new to television. We've worked quite extensively in theatre in the past, but we are new to television. It's very difficult to get something made if you're new to television. We've got an original concept. If you check out our crowdfunder, you've got loads of interviews with the cast. That's the other thing. It's already completely fully cast. All we need is the money to pay them. And we're very close to reaching our target. It's been on for 2 months, so it's been quite a long crowdfunder to raise £8,000. We are now on 7,420. So we only need, at the time of recording, £680 more in order to reach our target. If we don't reach our target, it's fine. It's not the sort of crowdfund where you don't get anything if you don't reach your target. We still get to keep whatever we do get. So with the amount of money we've got so far, I'm confident that if we just sort of scale down our ambitions slightly, we'll be able to do it. But at this stage, I do feel very confident about reaching our target, and I think that we can.
Yeah, sounds great, man. Sounds really positive. I'm really happy for you. That's great. We this show just went through a massive Kickstarter campaign as well ourselves to get the first season of the show, which is coming next year, being funded to be filmed. So we empathise with you, mate, and we wish you all the best for sure, and hopefully you can get that pilot off the ground and make it the best that you can be. So
thank you. Drop us some money.
Yes, definitely. We're gonna promote the hell out of this on our page. Just wait to see.
Thank you.
So let's move on to Alastair. Now, Alastair, as I said, busy guy. Lots of projects. Well, lots of projects on the pipeline. I mean, you emailed me with about 6 different things you wanted to talk about, but we've narrowed it to these 2. So you're looking to promote 2 projects, as we said, the Monitor and Amatuer, which is the latter being made by Collective Voices. So can you tell us a bit about these 2 projects?
So the Monitor, it started off, I actually read the script about 2 years ago. And it was just your kind of run-of-the-mill sort of horror. But the writer, his name's Brian Whiteman, they decided not to make it at that point. I think he was working with a few people to make a few like short films, but they decided they want to make things a bit better because their equipment was very basic. So they decided to hold off doing that. But on one of his films, I actually worked with an actor called Alex Mason. I don't know if any know him or have worked with him before, but he's around a lot in Scotland. But he started branching out into production, so he's decided that he's taken the script and he's going to direct it, and this will be the first film he's directed. So because I was attached before, he messaged me and says, "Do you still want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, absolutely." So he'd taken the script and he's rewritten it a bit to make it a little bit more of a thriller rather than just a sort of straightforward horror. So he's made it a little bit more about about PTSD and an experience that happens within like a kind of close-knit family, and it's sort of maybe like a little bit further down the line from when the event has happened. So you're seeing them at a point where they're still trying to cope with what's happened, but they've fallen into sort of a routine of doing things, and it's about trying to kind of break that routine. But there's just like a lot of tension between like the mother and the father character. But it's the events. I don't want to say too much because I'll spoil it. But yeah, it's basically about sort of working through PTSD and trying to sort of overcome that without sort of everyone just kind of exploding at each other, really, I think.
Awesome. And Mature Amateur?
Yeah, so Sean Friel, he's and his partner Esther Louis, they run Collective Voices. They met at the SA Institute in Glasgow. They studied together, and they left and decided to do their own thing. But yeah, Sean, he sent me the script a few months ago, and it's basically just a kind of spoof of like a kind of murder mystery, documentary that you get on Netflix and things like that. So he's quite into sort of surreal comedy and dark comedy. So I really love that kind of thing as well. So we clicked on our sort of sense of humours, and he sent me through the script, and it's just completely mental. And it's about this guy basically trying to create his own series about a date that went wrong, a date that he went on that went wrong, There's lots of implications that the woman that has disappeared, that he went on the date on, like that he has so much stuff to do with her disappearance, but he's the one that's investigating it. So it's really kind of back to front type surreal comedy. But again, it's one of these things, I don't want to say too much about it, but just kind of give you a wee taste. And we're actually meant to start filming about a month ago, but weather has put it off because it's all filmed on location. And we got to location on the day and the heavens opened. So, and it's a very, very small crew, obviously with the time that we're in. So they didn't have the equipment to protect things. So, but we're still hoping to try and get something filmed before the end of the year. Once we come back out at T4, I'm in a T4 zone. I don't know about anyone else. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing these projects because we're meant to start filming The Monitor as well. We'd actually done some rehearsals in September. But again, just with the new restrictions that get brought in and the amount of people from different households that can gather, they decided to postpone it till next year. But Alex, the director, he wants to get a lot more equipment and a lot better equipment. And he's very much kind of like, oh, we'll show BAFTA, the people from BAFTA this or people from whatever this. And he's trying to get like a lot of support. We did a crowdfunder for it, but it's already finished. So I can't give you that to promote. But and like it on Facebook and stuff and follow it as it's been filmed.
And we'll put links in and posts up for you so we can get everyone's attention on those pages for sure, definitely. Tell us a bit more about, before we finish, about Collective Voices itself. What are they all about? What are they trying to achieve just now?
So they're trying to do things. They've got like twofold really. They do like I said, surreal comedy, but they also do like non-fiction as well. So documentaries. One of the first documentaries they did actually helped to produce it. And Sean, for his last year at university, he had to produce like what they called a major project, but he took that literally. So he's like, okay, so I'm given a major project. I want to do as big a project as I can. So he came up with the idea of detailing as many people as possible from as many people's like different working backgrounds as possible, their daily routine. And we ended up filming over 120 people and ended up with 10 hours worth of footage. But his idea with that was to show that no matter if you're like a politician or you're homeless or you work in a school or you're a student, if you put those people side by side and watch their daily routine, that actually everyone's really similar in what they do. So he's put like 3 of these on the website. Part 3 actually just went out today. Now they're over 2 hours long each, but he's putting out everyone's individual interview up on YouTube as well. So if people fancy sitting down for a couple hours and just watching people, because people love people watching, you just sit and watch people and listen to their conversations and things like that. So I think it was really an interesting project to be part of. But another couple of things they did was about the sort of litter issues in and around Glasgow. And they've done another documentary about a team called Compassionate Inverclyde, who help people sort of with disease, maybe terminal illness or mental illness, as a voice for them, people to go and talk to if they feel like maybe they don't have anyone else to talk to or they're alone. So it's a strange combination, like looking at it, they've got these like sort of documentaries about social issues and environmental issues, but yet on the other hand, they've got these really kind of weird, off the wall, surreal, dark comedies. But yeah, I literally met Sean and Esther just working on a short film with them, and like I said, I sort of clicked with them. And Sean's very much of, everyone's doing short films, I want to try and do different things. So that's where he got the idea of doing this big, massive documentary. And we've got plans to do other stuff as well that's not been written yet. But the thing I sort of sent you through a clip for something that's called Martin McGrath, but it's about this politician. And he's really just, it's basically social commentary on what politicians are like, just basically how they'll say anything to get votes. And it was myself and Tony McDonald that were in that, and he was playing my political advisor. And again, it's fun, and he's one of these people that lets you, as an actor, input into the script as well. So he's like, if you've got ideas, let's do it. He'll let you improv as well. So if there's the end of the scene, the end of the dialogue, he'll just let the camera run and see if you come up with anything else. And sometimes it's shit, and sometimes it's really good, and it makes the cut. So it's cool as an actor to have someone who's confident in your ability to be like let's see what you can do, sort of thing. So we get on really well, and I enjoy working with him.
Awesome, man. As I said at the start, it's great to see you doing so well. I had a great time working with you on those 2 projects that we've done together. So I wish you all the best with your upcoming stuff.
You too.
Hopefully they take off, yeah, for sure. So I want to thank the panel for joining me today. I want to thank George and Alastair for joining me today to talk about their stuff. Thanks so much, guys. We had a great time there talking about The Condemned. And just to finish off, as always, we've got a life lesson, of course, to come. So the life lesson we can take from The Condemned. So I believe this film has a great deal of foresight. It is talking about reality TV and the perils of reality TV and streaming services and all these things. So I think what it's trying to show us is that if we're not careful, if society isn't careful, we'll keep craving more, keep looking for more thrills, until eventually we're going to have a former wrestler and a former footballer fighting to death on some island. So we've got to be careful, guys. So before you tune into Towie tonight, before you tune into I'm a Celebrity tonight, just stop, just think. All right, just think, kids. All right. See you next time.
That was very funny. You delivered that very well.
Are we the condemned?
I thought that's where you were going as well.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, "Are we the condemned?"